everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I'm going to go through Bitcoin, maybe MicroStrategy, Coinbase, and also going to go through some of the miners here and talk about the timing, talk about when things might break out, things like that. I usually go through like the details. I don't really like to do that anymore. I just want to use the weekend to zoom out, especially since the markets close on Monday. Just wanted to take an opportunity to kind of zoom out and kind of think about where we are at the cycle, how I'm expecting potentially how things would end up playing out. This is Bitcoin. This is the weekly chart. I just take out this. You can see these are all weekly candles. Put the Ichimoku cloud here. This is just a way to basically use different moving averages. It's not really moving average. It's like period averages. If you're ever interested in how these Ichimoku cloud works, I have a lesson on my YouTube for my members. Regardless, you can look at this. It really doesn't matter what kind of indicator it is, as long as it will give you a good support and resistance level. And as far as I'm concerned, Bitcoin Ichimoku cloud works extremely well, because you can see what's been happening this cycle is that it got rejected here at the top of the Ichimoku cloud, and it broke through, and all it has done so far is just backtesting the Ichimoku cloud right there in September 2024. And once you back tested it, you build up a lot of momentum for the next leg up, right? Even though people were being really bitter and they really think that the things are just going to go down a lot further, it didn't really do that. It just bounced here, and it just ended up almost like doubling from here, right? So usually when you have a resistance level being flipped into support, very, very bullish thing happens. And has Bitcoin been doing this before? I was looking through past cycle. Last cycle, it didn't really do that. I think last cycle was really, very much going up in a hurry, right? A lot of people would be worried, oh yeah, it broke through the Ichimoku cloud here, it touched the cloud and it just plummeted from there. Is that going to happen this cycle? It didn't really seem to happen, right? Last cycle actually was very unsustainable. The last cycle actually, if you look at the support band, this cycle has been very sustainable because it's been touching the support band, even dipped underneath of it and kind of grabbed liquidity underneath of it. And it got back above and make a big move up, and then it actually did touch it and then went back underneath and grabbed more liquidity before the next move up, right? This cycle compared to last cycle just didn't care. It was just basically just flushing all the way up here for many months in a row, for like 6 or 7 months in a row without even touching the support band. When it finally touches, of course it's going to pierce through it because it's just, you haven't touch it for a while. You got really tired. Imagine a runner just kept run. Next thing you know, they stop. They're just going to crash, right? They're not taking the proper breaks. They're not trying to stop by the Bullion support band, taking a break, stop by Bullion support band, taking a break. They're not really doing that. They just ran up a lot faster, and it became just complete burnout here in just a few months, right? And this actually is the one move here that really got everybody really bullish on Bitcoin and trapped a lot of people. That's not what's happening this cycle. It's just simply not what's happening this cycle. Even last time, it just didn't really touch Ichimoku cloud until the cycle is over, right? What about the cycle before that, around 2015, 2017? It also had a hard time with even touching the Ichimoku cloud. And Ichimoku cloud actually was not really that big of a factor here because it was just a huge bull run. But this bull run was a lot more sustainable because it was tagging the bull support band over and over again on the way up, right? So that's what makes me feel that I think this cycle it's a lot healthier, and it might be a little bit longer, kind of compared to like the 2015, 2017 bull cycle here, as opposed to the really quick burnout 2020 to 2021 cycle. It's just got a little bit more sustainable move to it. The other thing I want to show too is the 2-day Ichimoku cloud. If I can turn off the conversion based on Technical Kitchen here, give you a little bit more an idea. I think that right now we're kind of touching a two-day Ichimoku cloud, kind of like we did, kind of got really close to over here. And you can see how 2-day Ichimoku cloud seemed to be pretty good support here at the bottom, here at the top right there. Seemed to be pretty good support, almost touched it over here, right? During bear market, it really used it as resistance, pushed into a cloud here a little bit, but it was using it as resistance, right? Resistance over here. So, and over here, before it got burned out, it was using it as support, right? So it seems like this is a pretty decent point for whatever reason mathematically that Bitcoin likes to touch before it kind of go up higher. Sometimes it can just consolidate and dip underneath of it and just grab liquidity underneath below, kind of like it did over here and like it did over here. But overall, I think we've tagged the 2-day Ichimoku cloud, and it looks like it wants to kind of make a little bit of a cup on the way up. That's kind of what it looks like to me. The other thing too, if you also just look back at the weekly Ichimoku cloud weekly chart over here, you can see how Bitcoin has been making two very, very systematic moves. One is going sideways over here, and over here, this is one move that Bitcoin has done, right? Where price just kind of goes sideways here for like 7 or 8 months. This is one way that it did that. And this over here, it did that, it was on the way to break out above the cloud here. Here it did that, it was on the way to kind of back test the cloud. And then in between this, you have this kind of like 2 or 3 months sideways over here, where things are just kind of cooling off. If anything, you have price kind of dip back down inside the tank here, got a little bit, and people a little bit more scared, grab some liquidity inside, and just push, a lot higher after that. I think we're at a very, very similar juncture here as opposed to over here. And I also think that if you look at a bonus support band, it also looks like we might not necessarily have to touch the band like we did over here. I just see these two areas to be very, very similar in terms of morphology. So I think that we might end up breaking above the zone here relatively soon. When it is, I don't exactly know. I don't think anybody really knows exactly when that's going to be. I also just want to point out, if you haven't watched my video with Charting Guy, I did make a 2-part series with the great Charting Guy, talking about the liquidity and also talking about GAN, talking about a bunch of other indicators. I think that the liquidity breakout is just happening. I think that generally when you have these sorts of periods, and I'm going to try to draw some rectangles here, when you have these sorts of periods where you have global liquidity just kind of going sideways, is usually when you had the bear market of Bitcoin, because it really needed to correct, right? After a big giant move of global liquidity, it needed to kind of correct sideways here underneath resistance. And it needs to break out, and usually after it breaks out, it usually ends up back testing it, right? So you're seeing that these are various resistance levels here for global liquidity, right? Here was lining up very perfectly with the bear market here for Bitcoin. And as soon as you break out and back test this, you have a leg up. That's when the impulsive move was happening, right? Same thing over here. You can see how you have the global liquidity is stuck here in a range underneath the resistance level over here. You can see that's when the bear market or Bitcoin happened. And where you break above and kind of get close to back tested it, and then you ran up a lot higher, was then the Bitcoin bull market was happening over here. So far, we've had a big, long sideways action. This is a lot longer compared to what had previously been. Over here, I think the whole process of this resistance to a back test was close to about maybe 2.5 years. Here, when resistance go and get into a back test over here, was about 2 years, right? Here, when you get to resistance from around March 2022 to the back test here around December 2024, you're talking about almost 3 years here. So I think the cycle is a little bit prolonged. And I think that now you have a back test, most likely you're going to end up having increase in global liquidity. That's coming. It's just things just go, global liquidity just go through cycles. You have sideways, and then you're up, you have sideways and then up, and you have sideways and then up, right? That's what I'm seeing here with a back test. With that in mind, if that's the case, and if this is really truly a prolonged cycle, and if the cycle is really becoming to the point where it's going to be the more bullish part of the leg for Bitcoin, then you're talking about Bitcoin potentially hit this horizontal zone over here around 200,000. And if it becomes more prolonged and it becomes absolutely crazy, it can even hit the arc up here. And it's not that crazy to think about because global liquidity hasn't really even expanded that much quite just yet. You can see what happened last time. It broke above one arc and went to the next arc, right? Dipped down underneath, broke through that arc, back test the arc. Where to go after that? To the next arc, right? Rejected over here, broke through underneath the arc, pushed through, back test the arc over here for about like 9 or 10 months, right? And then what did it do? It went up to the next arc. And what happened after that? Dip back down over here and then push through, back test the arc over here, and it's launching, right? It's launching. This cycle of global liquidity just seems to be a little bit slower. Does it mean that we're going to end up having, because we broke through and back test the arc over here, does that mean that the next target is going to be up here sometime, maybe in like, who knows? I don't know. I can't even fathom like whether or not it's going to get up to like something crazy like 600,000, 700,000, 800,000. I think it might be more subdued. It may be more here or maybe somewhere around here. I just have a hard time seeing it getting that quick. If it does, it could prolong. You can end up having a prolonged cycle because global liquidity seems to be prolonged, and you might end up having a lot more turbulence over here. Once you hit 200,000, you might end up having a hard time kind of break through that, and eventually hit the target up here above, right? Then that would be a little bit of a break from the whole like 4-year cycle that people think about with Bitcoin. But regardless, I think that this is still a pretty good thesis based on global liquidity, because I actually don't think that Bitcoin halving is that important anymore. I just think that as Bitcoin halving is having less and less of an impact in terms of the supply of Bitcoin that miners can get, there's really not much to halving in terms of the cycle anymore at this point. I could be wrong. A lot of people are still like halving maximalists, but to me, all I really care about is really global liquidity. And if global liquidity is just starting to kind of break out and build a backtest, I think Bitcoin might still be like mid-cycle. I think Bitcoin can keep up going up a lot higher over time. That's kind of what I'm visualizing when it comes to this. Now, when it comes to the proxies, one that has been huge for a lot of people is MicroStrategy. Do I think that MicroStrategy has topped? Do I think that MicroStrategy is at late cycle? I don't really think so. I think MicroStrategy may be more towards mid-cycle. If you're ever into a baseball game, there's usually 9 innings, right? I think that MicroStrategy might be entering its like 6th inning, somewhere around there. If you just look at the Bollinger Band strategy, I think it might have some sign of exhaustion, but it's been defying gravity. Here, for MicroStrategy, the Bollinger Band stops expanding in April 2021. Here, for in April 2021, was really this like a little bit of a lower high here compared to that wick over here, right? You really have burned out the entire cycle with 4 big giant candles, with one that has a huge giant wick above, that's way outside the upper Bollinger Band. It's not even touching the Bollinger Band here at all, and that was really the burnout, right? Are we having that so far this cycle? Not really. It still seemed to be respecting upper Bollinger Band all the way up, right? So I don't think we really have that burnout quite just yet. But overall, initially I was like, I don't know, my strategy just seems like it's getting a little bit tired here, but now it just keeps on wanting to keep going up. It keeps on just wanting to keep kind of consulting sideways here and just keep going up and keep on expanding the Bollinger Band. I think it's maybe mid-cycle. Another reason as to why I think it's maybe mid-cycle is because I have yet to see the Tenkan and Kitchen, or the red and blue line over here, as resistance. I would be a lot more worried if it becomes resistance like it was over here. Right? 4 big giant burnout candle, huge wick above, broke underneath of the Tenkan Kitchen here for the entire year, having a hard time push above it, had a bearish cross. Over here in November 2021, briefly broke above of it, couldn't hold because you had a bearish cross. It just plummeted all the way down to the cloud, right? Here, this cycle, we're having a very different morphology. It looks like it's just kind of respecting and going stepwise up and up and up. It's really been hugging the Tenkan and Kitchen, just bouncing from one area to another. And you're still using the Tenkan and Kitchen over here as support. You still have price actually above the Tenkan and Kitchen, not like it was over here. So because of that, I actually don't really think that the cycle for MicroStrategy is over, and therefore, by proxy, I also don't think that the cycle for Bitcoin is over. I have another video that talked about using Bollinger Band strategy to try to identify some bullish setup. One of the bullish setup that I saw, and I'm going to use NVIDIA here as the perfect illustration of that strategy. One perfect strategy that I've seen, not perfect, nothing is perfect. I'm sorry, I take that back. Nothing is perfect. But one really, really good strategy that I look at is if there is price that touch the lower Bollinger Band, and if it pushes through the median curve over here to get close to or actually hit the upper Bollinger Band, and then come back and backtest the median here and hold, that's when some really bullish things can happen, right? You can see how this happened here once, and you can see that it happened the second time here, even though most people are calling for a head and shoulder pattern over here, but most head and shoulder pattern are actually continuation pattern, but that's beside the point. Not most, but like it's actually more often than you think. A lot of people just look at head and shoulder and they think that it's a downtrend, but not necessarily. What ends up happening was it touched the lower Bollinger Band here, push up to the upper Bollinger Band, and then come back, bounce from the 20-week moving average, and it just went beast mode, right? So this combo here, low Bollinger Band, upper Bollinger Band, 20-week moving average, pretty profitable so far. I don't know whether or not it's going to happen with the third combo here. That I really don't know. Low Bollinger Band, are you going to reclaim to upper Bollinger Band and then hold it and then go up a lot higher? I don't know, right? It looks like a potential setup here, but we're not talking about NVIDIA. We're talking about MicroStrategy. But I just want to show you that the opposite also holds true, right? You touch the low Bollinger Band. Well, actually, no. You touch the upper Bollinger Band, and then you get close or touch the low Bollinger Band, and you back test the 20-week moving average, got rejected, then something entirely very bearish can happen, right? The opposite also holds true. And this pattern happens over and over again for NVIDIA. Upper Bollinger Band, low Bollinger Band, upper Bollinger Band, and then touch the 20, beast mode, right? I'm not making this up. Like, upper Bollinger Band, low Bollinger Band, upper Bollinger Band didn't really quite touch a 20 over here and just kind of beast mode it. Sometimes if you have a little bit of a failure to launch, like you touch the upper Bollinger Band, lower Bollinger Band, it didn't really quite get to the upper Bollinger Band here, and it just kind of fell, and it just kind of goes sideways over here. Regardless, I just, you don't always see these kinds of things, so when you see it, it makes you wonder whether or not things are going to go a lot higher. MicroStrategy, you have that happening where the combo is starting to develop here. You have the upper Bollinger Band, lower Bollinger Band, and then you have a little bit of a reclaim of the 20-week moving average and just beast mode it from here. And right now, let me see. I'm trying to zoom out here and see. Yeah, you can see that happening very well, right? Lower Bollinger Band, upper Bollinger Band, 20, and it just kind of beast mode from there. I just wonder whether or not we're going to end up having some further bullish continuation. Because what's happening right now? What is happening right now? This is a more prolonged version, right? Touch the lower Bollinger Band, beast mode, and touch the upper Bollinger Band. What are we doing right now? We're touching the 20. We're finally touching the 20. So this is a pretty good combo, and it could actually set up a pretty bullish move moving forward. Assuming it doesn't break down. Assuming it doesn't break down. I don't think it will. If it breaks down, it might just be like a little bit of a temporary breakdown, kind of like it is over here, like it is over here. But this is a pretty good combo. This works out very well. Lower Bollinger Band, upper Bollinger Band, 20-week moving average. It could set up something very, very bullish moving forward. I see the same thing, by the way, with Coinbase, but we'll get to that here in a second. I just want to finish up here talking about MicroStrategy on a weekly. It's trying to reclaim the 1.414. What happened is it rejected here perfectly at 1.618 log fib. It broke down, right? Because it went way too far, way too fast. This is not healthy, by the way. And it just needed to cool down. Didn't end up closing the gap over here. It's just going sideways because Bitcoin's been going sideways. It's been trying to reclaim the 1.414. It's been having a hard time doing it. But as soon as it does that, I think that's when it challenges the 1.618 here again and challenges the arc up here again. And because of higher time frame stuff that I just showed you, I think that it's just a matter of time that it challenges the arc up here. And it's just a matter of time that it breaks the arc and go higher. I think MicroStrategy is going to go higher. How much higher does it go this cycle? Nobody really knows. It depends on what Bitcoin does. And I just kind of show you what I thought Bitcoin might do, although Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It could do whatever the heck it wants to do, but that's kind of the trajectory that I suspect that it would go. But I did have a lot of these higher targets here for your imagination. Okay, you can hold me to it or not. I mean, I don't really care. I'm not going to hold myself to these targets here. What's happening with Coinbase? I did a little bit of talking with Coinbase, but I think that the same thing's happening here with the Bollinger Band, right? What's happening right now? You have the low Bollinger Band, upper Bollinger Band, and touching the 20 here twice, right? It's holding. This is actually setting up for a pretty decent move on the upwards. Doesn't mean it's going to shoot up like that. No, not necessarily. It could still be kind of going sideways, build up more energy, and then go up, right? But that's kind of what I'm seeing here. The fact that a lot of people got really burned by options is kind of silly because price really had done absolutely nothing for 4 weeks, right? And you spent 4 weeks just doing nothing, and it couldn't even break down below half of this green candle, half of this bullish engulfing candle over here. It's done nothing, right? So the fact that if you lose money from Coinbase is probably because you're over leveraged and probably because you're trying to play these like short-term game. I'm very bullish on the long term. What it's really been doing is just backtest the horizontal breakout zone over here. That's what it's really been doing. It's nothing. There's nothing bearish about this chart in per se. Unless if it shows us a different character, and so far it really hasn't been showing us any different character so far. Again, I can keep talking about this over and over again because I think of this setup over here where it had the bullish cross of the thing in kitchen here on the monthly Ichimoku cloud broke above, backtest the Kijun, passed, backtest the Tenkan, passed. Last time I saw that, I'm seeing this, by the way, with others. No, not with others, actually with Total 3, which is the whole like entire cryptocurrency market without Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm seeing the same combo playing out. Bullish cross, backtest the Kijun, push through, backtest the Tenkan. I'm seeing the same setup. Last time I saw the setup, what was I seeing at? Palantir, right? Bullish cross, backtest the Kijun, push through, backtest the Tenkan, and then just moonshot it from there, right? What else did I seen this at recently? We have Hims, who had a bullish cross, actually went underneath the Kijun here, but we were able to push through the Kijun, backtest the Tenkan over here, and just beast mode it, right? So this is actually a very, very good setup here for Coinbase. Very, very good setup here for Coinbase. Also very, very good setup for the cryptocurrency market cap in general. I can't type today. Also very, very good for the cryptocurrency market cap here in general. So I think that things are setting up for some pretty sick things to happen. It hasn't happened yet. And this wick down here really have got a lot of people really, really bitter. Really, really bitter. And they are extremely unhappy about how cryptocurrencies are doing. And that's fine. Sometimes that's the kind of sentiment that you need before things go higher, right? If anything, I think this is wave 1, wave 2, wave sub 1 of 3, wave sub 2 of 3, and then wave 3 is going to come soon, and it's going to be the most powerful wave of them all, right? This is what wave 3 looks like. So I'm not bearish on the overall market here. I'm not bearish on MicroStrategy. I sure as heck am not bearish on Coinbase. What the heck is CleanSpark doing? What the heck is CleanSpark doing? I don't want to talk too much about all the miners. I'm going to talk about CleanSpark, and I'm going to talk about Mara. I'm not going to talk about the rest of the miners because I think this video is getting a little bit too long and redundant. But I would like to illustrate these two miners. CleanSpark is a tough one because they didn't really start mining Bitcoin until December 2020. So all the price action before is actually kind of meaningless when it comes to CleanSpark. But regardless, the algorithms don't care. They calculate the Ichimoku cloud here using all this price action here before. And what happened with CleanSpark was, I can look at it in hindsight, and it kind of makes a lot more sense to me now. Whenever price just plummeted down to the bottom, and it decided that it wants to reverse from going down, and it just wants to develop its bull market, the ultimate goal for the bull market that's going to happen is going to go touch the really, really thick Ichimoku cloud here. It didn't really care. It's going to go up there real fast, because if it decided that it's going to be a bull market, it's going to do that very fast. It's going to burn all the way out here to the Ichimoku cloud and flip a lot of people, including myself, very, very bullish. And it's even got a lot of attempts to try and break into the Ichimoku cloud here failed, and you broke down. You have continued effort trying to break into the Ichimoku cloud. Matter of fact, if you look at the Super Ichi cloud, it shows you the same thing, right? Matter of fact, if you look at Super Ichi cloud, we're still trying to break into it right now. It's been very, very difficult to break inside, but it's been trying for about a year, more than a year. It's been trying to do that for more than a year. I think that the trend, if you're looking at the overall trend here, again, I'm gonna have to sort of ignore everything that happened before December 2020, because that doesn't really apply to like what CleanSpark actually is right now, right? If I just look at what happened here, all I'm seeing is a big giant cup here with a handle. All I see is just a big giant cup here with a handle, right? If it's a big giant cup with a handle, then this move up here is going to be wave 1. This move over here is going to be wave 2, right? And we're still waiting for wave 3 to begin. And the wave 3 is still building up a lot of energy here, trying to push through the Ichimoku cloud and the Super Ichi cloud, right? Now, if you do the Bollinger Band method, it's not going to show up as nice, because sometimes you overshoot it, sometimes you undershoot it, right? I really find that these miners, they look a lot better, and it makes a lot more sense in terms of the cycle if you do 6 weeks. Because if you do 6 weeks, it actually, this cycle is a little bit lengthened, it's a little bit longer. If you do 6 weeks, it makes more sense. Because what happened if you do 6 weeks, I'm going to get rid of the GAN here for a second. If you do 6 weeks, what you end up seeing is this. Is that price basically just went and trying to break into the 0.786 here and got rejected at the 0.786 from this cycle high over here, right? Got rejected at 0.786. Why? Well, because it was on the way to trying to flip the curve over here, the median curve over here, from negative sloping to positive sloping, right? It had to have some really impulsive price action to make that happen. And during the entire time it was happening, it got way outside the upper Bollinger Band and it had to cool down. It hit a very important resistance level, which is 0.786 here, and had to break down, right? And as it broke down, where is it going to go? Well, it couldn't hold the 0.618. It broke through and broke into the 0.5, right? And it held there. Why did it hold there? Because you have a rising moving average up here, the median rising moving average up here, and it's been serving support here almost perfectly, right? So this whole thing right there, theoretically, based on what I'm looking at with a bunch of other charts here, and by the way, the low Bollinger Band is all the way down because there's just these are just hugely volatile. It's just been extremely volatile. So, but if you look at what it's doing right now, we're waiting for the Bollinger Band expansion to happen. I think price is going to end up grounding back up here to the upper Bollinger Band here around 20. That's where price is going to want to go to, which means that it's going to re-challenge the 0.786, which means that it's going to break into the Ichimoku cloud or Sabichi cloud here on the monthly, which means that this is wave 1, wave 2, and the wave 3 hasn't happened yet. How do you have a cycle that end in a couple of months if wave 3 hasn't happened yet? Well, I could be wrong. This could be burnout. It could break down and just end up plummeting all the way down to 0. That's one possibility. The other possibility is just that the global liquidity is just... The other possibility is that global liquidity is just starting to reverse trend, right? The other possibility is, if you look at the M2 liquidity index fund, it's just starting to reverse trend, right? It's been getting resistance here for a very long time. Hence, you have the bear market here for CleanSpark, right? And as the bull market was happening, you really didn't really have much liquidity here. I think it was just kind of front running what could happen after that. And this correction over here was a result of this big giant move up here without the global liquidity to support it, right? But guess what? Right now we back tested the resistance zone as support, and right now we're bouncing. Does that mean that CleanSpark is going to break the 0.618 and hit the 0.786 here and challenge that, and then break a lot higher and make not all-time highs because you have a lot, but you get it, make more higher cycle highs, if you will. I think it's likely if global liquidity continues to go up, which would drag Bitcoin higher, which would drag IWM higher, Russell 2000 higher, which would drag a lot of these like small cap crazy speculative stocks a lot higher. I think it's entirely possible. The other thing is, like, if you ask me about how high can it go, well, it depends. I don't know how high wave 3 is going to go. Wave 1 looks extremely powerful. So I don't know how high wave 3 is going to go. Some people think this is 1, 2, 3, and this is a prolonged 4, and you have a 5 somewhere. I think that's also very, very much of a valid count. But I can also picture this being like a 1 and a 2, right? It really depends on how you feel about what global liquidity is doing. And wave 3 doesn't have to last long. It just have to be powerful, right? So I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. All I know is that institution has been loading up on CleanSpark. All I know is the institution has been loading up on MARA. Talking about MARA is going to give me a little bit more of a better thing to talk about. The reason why I think MARA is easier to talk about is because it really was a miner ever since around like 2019. It's been through a cycle. It's been through halving twice. And I think MARA is just a lot easier to digest because CleanSpark didn't really become a miner until something like December 2020, which was really close to like the top of the last Bitcoin cycle. So it really is not too informative when it comes to the cycle analysis perspective, right? Whereas MARA is different. MARA actually has been through a whole cycle, right? This whole liquidity grab over here was all based on the fact that it was a Bitcoin miner, and also based on the fact that IWM did very well, and this is a small cap stock, and it probably goes for the same, liquidity, how do you say that? Sources, if you will. But all I have to say right now is Mara is holding 0.5. I think these are also very similar. I'm going to do a 6-week chart here. I'm going to pull up the 20, the Bollinger Band here. You can see how it's very respectable Bollinger Band here perfectly, right? You can see how this is, I'm going to delete the fit level here. You can see how last time this is wave 1, right? Got to upper Bollinger Band here. Come back test the median over here. And this is wave 2, right? Wave 3, right there. Very, very strong, very powerful. Wave 4 over here. Wave 5 over here, right? By that logic, this is wave 1. We got to the upper Bollinger Band here, extend a little bit above that. Come back test the median over here, right? And I think this is wave 2. I think we're starting to develop wave 3, right? But it's just really, really slow. This cycle is just a lot slower than the last cycle, right? If you're looking at, even for IWM, it's a lot slower. IWM has not really broken out quite just yet. So, and Mara is even going to be slower than IWM. I have the chart over here. This is a weekly chart. I'm looking at the last cycle between Mara and IWM. And you can see the previous all-time high for IWM was right here, right? Before COVID hits. And when COVID hits, things just kind of plummeted down, right? And then as soon as you start to have price breaking above, convincingly breaking above previous all-time high over here, right? That's when you have a big move upwards, right? And this is followed by Mara having a big move upwards. This is the liquidity. This is where global liquidity really comes into play, right? But even if it was having this breakout candle here, which IWM still hasn't had that because it still hasn't really been able to sustain a candle close on the weekly here above the previous all-time high here. If you end up having a candle like this, does it mean that Mara is going to immediately push to make all-time highs? No. Because what happened last cycle when you have IWM push to all-time high here, Mara was still stuck, right? It was still way below this high up here. It was still stuck right around here. It was still stuck right around here. As you have confirmation that IWM is going to continue to make all-time highs, that's when Mara just kind of continue to really defy gravity and just make this big move up that a lot of people, including myself, have a hard time forgetting from last cycle, right? That has not happened yet in terms of the macro, because IWM still hasn't even closed a weekly candle above the previous all-time high. That hasn't happened yet. Even when it happens, there's a delay with miners, right? Even when it happens over here with this gap up, there's still going to be a delay here with miners by a few weeks, right? So I am still waiting. I think this whole cycle is just a lot slower. It's very, very brutal for a lot of people, but I'm still waiting for it to happen. Am I wrong to wait for it to happen? Maybe, but I really think that if you are going for a high beta play for global liquidity and high beta play for IWM, and look no further than Mara. I think if IWM doesn't do anything for years, then Mara's not going to do anything for years. If IWM ends up being extremely bullish, then I think Mara is going to end up being extremely bullish. I've talked about this for like a whole year. And unfortunately, IWM just still hasn't really broken above the all-time high for a whole year. We are still waiting for these macroeconomic stuff to kind of play out. And so we get a $16.90 Mara, and you can decide what you want to do with it. Comparing Mara to Bitcoin, Mara up top, Bitcoin up in the bottom, right? You can have an outperformance of Mara against Bitcoin, and it did that last cycle, right? Followed by a severe underperformance of Mara to Bitcoin for close to several months over here, right? Because as you can see, as Bitcoin's building up momentum over here, Mara still did absolutely nothing, right? I'm not making this up. Mara did absolutely nothing here as Bitcoin's building a lot of momentum for a leg up, right? It's not until IWM and the global liquidity comes really kick in, that's when everything just kind of move up along together, right? That's when you have this big giant move on the way up. Right now, it's happening. Well, right now we have during the the earlier part of this bull market over here, you actually have Mara outperforming Bitcoin by a lot, right? Mara went from $3 all the way to like 30, maybe even like 34, 35, right? Where did Bitcoin go? It went from 16,000, 15,000, 16,000 to maybe like 48,000. It made like a 3x when Mara made a 10x, right? So can you imagine? I think Bitcoin's just playing catch up here for last year. Bitcoin has basically just doubled, and Mara has done absolutely nothing, right? So as far as I'm concerned, I still think that there is a lot of similarities here between this cycle and last cycle, and that this cycle is just lasting a lot longer and is burning all of you out. And I'm getting a lot of really funny comments because of it. But if you look at the bigger picture here, there's really nothing to really like for me to get strange feelings about miners, right? Mara over here went from 35 cents all the way up to like $5. It did like a crazy 13x or something like that, right? What happened with Bitcoin? It went from 4,000 over here to 13,000, right? Did a 3x, right? You see the similarities here that I'm showing you? So I'm not saying that I'm going to be right. I'm not saying that Mara is going to Uranus or the moon or whatever. Like, I mean, I am saying that, but it's mostly as a joke. What I'm saying is I'm saying that so far, I don't want to be an absolutist about any of this. All I'm saying is that so far, I'm not seeing anything that's different from this cycle compared to last cycle. And Mara has been through a cycle. So that's all I really want to say about Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, Coinbase, CleanSpark, and Mara. I hope that you guys enjoy this video. My videos do tend to run long, but I'm trying to illustrate a point here. And these concepts are not easy to type, and these concepts are not easy to convey. The best way to really show you is to show you the charts. I don't care about any of your narratives. I don't care about any of your narratives. I don't care about dilution. I don't care about any of that. I care about the data. I care about liquidity. I care about cycles. I can be extremely wrong, and you can be extremely right if you fade me. Anyway, that's all. Take care, guys. Bye.